About 48 hours ago, I emailed the guy at Fuji Rumors because I was getting reports of everybody seeing the X-T4s that had hit people's hands. And some of them were marked made in China, and some of them were marked made in Japan. And they weren't flubs, they were actual marks inside of the camera, even though there were samples. He got confirmation from Fujifilm North America that all U.S. bound, and probably Japan, obviously so, X-T4s will be made in Japan. I don't know what other countries that would actually cover, but at least all the USA made X-T4s will be made in Japan. He seems to think that it's because of U.S. Chinese tariffs, kind of like the same reason that Toyota has a huge mega billion-dollar factory about 30 miles from here, and they can get around car tariffs by building Toyotas here in the United States. Same reason why my RAV4 is made in Canada. You could get around tariffs because I think the United States is extremely cool with Canada so far as tariffs. I'm about 100% certain that that might be a small reason, but the major reason is the coronavirus. Parts supplies and assembly. I mean, things are far worse in China because there's not really much news that actually leaks out of China. Let's be perfectly honest here. So I really am about 100% certain that it's due to coronavirus. There are issues with parts and assembly, not just from cameras, but I mean, reports of that coming from everywhere. But also, too, it's important to note, and I've said this now for years, that people don't understand that made in has nothing to do with where the parts come from. A digital camera is really only a few things. It is a sensor, it is a main board, or the motherboard, if you will. It is the shutter mechanism, and depending on the camera, the hybrid display. There's a little sticker on this one that says made in Japan. Yeah. The X-T3 says made in China. The X-T2 said made in Japan. The X-T3, the sensors all come from the same damn place. Yeah? The sensors that are in the X-T3 on that camera that says made in China come from the exact same place as this camera that says made in Japan. Assembled in is one thing. Made in is another. Okay? That's all a camera is. It's a main board, a sensor assembly, and a shutter mech. A few other things, obviously. So those are the main constituent components. They all come from the same place. Labor for assembly is more expensive in Japan than it is in China. But I emailed Fuji Rumors about this. I said, I know you got the information that the X-T4 for USA is made in Japan, but your conclusions, which are not based upon, any evidence, and he could be right, that it was his guesses, and that's fine. I'm not against his guess, is because of their tariffs. It's like, no, it's because of coronavirus. We could both be right. It could obviously be, and we both agreed on that it could be both, the coronavirus and tariffs. But if you actually promise a camera and you can't deliver because all the assembly is down, I mean, I'm about 100% certain from the leaked videos I've seen out of China, about 100% certain, that things there are far, 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 far worse than we're being told. Like, far worse, like, really far worse. And it makes all the sense in the world for Japan, because I've actually seen no direct evidence from Canon or other places that or other digital cameras that are actually assembled, i.e. made in China, having concerns about tariff increases. Anyway, so all USA bound X-T4s confirmation is that they will be made in Japan, but they're not really made. They're assembled in Japan. So everybody, think, well, this is a lesser camera. It's made in China, not this one. The parts all come from the exact same place. They've always come from. Always. The sensors have always come from the same place. Same too with the main boards. Same too with the shutter mechanisms. Same place. The lenses, however, are different. Like Fujifilm, when Fujifilm basically exploded on their digital camera scene a few years ago, they're like, we can't make enough lenses here in Japan. And so they actually opened up a huge facility in both the Philippines and China for lens production. Like all latter 18 to 55 lenses and other lenses started, people said, these new 18 to 55s they made in the Philippines. Like, yeah. Company grows, you gotta either build another factory, which Fujifilm showed they're actually building another huge structure in Japan. That was in one of their videos. But yeah, you gotta, higher demand requires increasing your facilities and methods of production. Also too, trying to keep labor costs down. but making the X-T4s, assembling them in Japan means higher labor costs. But if you can't produce them at all because of the coronavirus in Japan, then who gives a damn? You got to make them, right? So, yeah, here we go.